Good morning everybody and welcome back to another weekly recap. In the weekly recap, I like to go over any news related to the old school RuneScape community this week. Now this week we did get a very small content update which I'm going to be covering, but there's also a number of other things happening in the community right now that I thought it was worthy to make an episode today. Thanks for watching. As always, if you do enjoy the video, always appreciate a like on it. It really does help out a lot. Thanks for watching and let's get started. Alright, so let's start off with this week's game update. It is simply titled Nex Changes and Tweaks, and it simply is a week 1 follow-up to the Nex release that has a few minor bug fixes and updates, as well as a couple of incredibly major changes, which we'll get to in a minute. So there's around a dozen small changes here. During the final phase of the fight, Nex's Soul Split healing is now combined into a single hit splat, just to add a bit more clarity to the fight. Also now, if there's fewer than 20 people in the encounter, the actual loot drop will be underneath Nex instead of underneath each individual player. Above 20, that will remain the same though. Ashlot Rays, the banker, will now be easier to find as they will be wandering less. So now for the biggest ambiguous statement ever, but probably the biggest change of the entire update, Nex's loot table has been slightly altered. So this came out yesterday and a lot of people were speculating on what exactly that meant. Most people thought that this was a drop rate nerf or that the drops were made rarer. Now on the first day, this was actually somewhat corroborated by the OSRS wiki team. They had some preliminary estimations that the uniques may have gone from 1 out of 40 to maybe 1 out of 55 or 1 out of 60 per kill, making it essentially 25 or 30% less common to receive a unique. So that actually transitions us nicely into an update that came out literally as I was recording this clip. So just 5 minutes ago, a news blog was dropped titled Nex Drop Table Changes and Monster Examine. So what exactly is detailed in this blog? Well, they're going to be revealing what the drop rates are and the reasoning behind changing them. So Jagex writes that our data showed that players were actually able to defeat Nex much faster than we anticipated, and the loot table changes were made to reflect the faster kill speeds. So definitely a nerf. We generally do adjust drop rates for new content, and the information we provide in news posts is typically vague unless drop rates have been revealed. However, the big difference this time is that the community crowdsourced data is now readily available, and you'll all be able to get a rough idea of how things work behind the scenes anyway, especially when it comes to drop rates. So in good faith and to debunk any incorrect numbers, here are the unique drop rates for Nex. So before the update, the drop rate was 1 out of 43 per kill, divided amongst the players based on contribution. Now post-update, it is now 1 out of 53 per kill, once again divided based on contribution. Now once you've hit that roughly 1 in 50 chance of hitting the unique table, you'll roll again for a specific unique based on the ratios below. You have a 2 out of 12 chance of getting any of the Torva armors, or roughly a 50% chance of hitting Torva, a 2 in 12 chance of getting the Nile Horn, or 1 in 6 I suppose, 3 in 12 of getting the Zerite Vambraces, and a 1 in 12 of getting the Ancient Hilt. Now, one final thing that was added in later is the drop rate for the new pet, the Nexaline. Now, this is dropped at a rate of 1 out of 500, keeping in mind that this is rolled independently of the other uniques, so it's not required for you to get a unique to get the pet. It is just a flat 1 out of 500. Now, one other final thing that I was personally wondering about is how important or how impactful is getting the MVP. For those who don't know, the person who dealt the most damage during the next fight will receive big bones, indicating that they were the MVP of the fight. Now, the MVP bonus will actually provide a 10% boost to regular loot and the chance of getting a unique drop. So an additional 10% for getting MVP. That is significant, but it's not as much as I thought. Now, one other unique thing about the Nex release is Monster Examine did not work, and they address this in the blog here. Now, the idea behind not allowing Monster Examine, I think, is actually a good one in a way. By not allowing players to immediately know what Nex's stats are and what will be most efficient to kill them, it kind of inspires a lot of interesting different theory crafting and varied setups until players finally figure out what works best. In a way, I do think this is kind of interesting. That said, they will be enabling the use of the spell next week, so you're able to confirm your suspicions and further optimize your builds. So by next week, the stats for Nex are going to be revealed, and probably the meta will start to solidify a bit more. Okay, so a few other additions with Nex this week. You are no longer able to alch Blood Essence while it's active, and the high alch price has been reduced significantly. That is because players were able to activate a Blood Essence, use up pretty much all of the charges, and then alch it for 120k, which was a pretty significant extra bit of GP. So they fully nerfed that. You essentially cannot do that anymore. And of course, there are a few other minor changes, but that is pretty much it for all of the Nex changes this week. Alright, so that is it for the content update, but I still have a bit of community news to go over. Now, first up here, the poll results for the Tombs of Amasket and some other various changes are in, and no surprise to me, or really anyone it seems, all of it passed with flying colors. The Tombs of Amasket got a whopping 94.8% approval, which is huge for pretty much any content. And everything else related to Raids 3 also passed with over 90%. The new Land of the Goblins quest passed with over 90% as well. There was also a host of group Ironman questions which passed with 99%, keeping in mind that most people had to skip that. So either way though, it's not very common anymore that polls actually fail, partly due to maybe the lack of content people feel, and also that I think the moderators know a little bit better what would pass and what would fail. Now I actually have a Runelight release I want to cover. This one isn't exactly new, it's 4 weeks old, but there's a few really big additions, I think anyway. Now first appeared the menu entry swapper has a new option that allows you to configure your left click option on items, not shift click, just singular left click. Now in essence, this is just a easier way to shift click things, but essentially you can make any option on an item left clickable, and you can change it on a per item basis by right clicking on your inventory and configuring left click. The music plugin now also has an additional option to mute ambient sounds such as magic trees and furnaces. So if you still want to have some of the sounds on but not the really annoying ones, there's a new feature for that. Lots of other good stuff in there, but those are just a couple things I wanted to highlight. Alright, and finally here we have a little bit on the Shattered Relics. Now not too much has been revealed about Leagues 3 yet, but over the last week a bunch of different content creators have revealed different relics that you'll be able to get in this league. Keep in mind that these are the lower level effects and you will be able to combine these into more powerful relics as you progress in the league. A few interesting ones I thought were Thrall damage, where your summoned thralls could do 100%, 200% or even 300% more damage, which would be pretty cool to have like a summoner build in the league. There's also a Slayer related perk that can heal your hit points whenever you kill a monster on your task, which means if you're bursting, you will pretty much always be full health. Also, one that allows you to get clue scrolls when you're lighting a fire, 10% chance with the highest level one, which means you'll permanently have clue scrolls essentially. Anyway, just a lot of interesting things in there, and while I'm probably not going to dive too deep into the Shattered Relics when it comes out, I will probably give it a try, and if I'm having fun, maybe we'll play it for a few weeks. Anyway, that is it for this week's recap. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Now, before I go here, I want to give a huge thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to Cesarium OSRS, The Hybrid, Alejandra, Sejuani's Flail, and Kush Patel for all being subscribed at the Dragon tier. Thank you guys so much, really appreciate it. Also a giant thank you to Ryan Shady, Mexos, Base Titch, NDM001, and YoYoSub89 for all subscribing at the Runelite tier. Really means a lot. As always, if you are looking for another way to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is a great way to support me directly. You will be immortalized in all of my future videos, get access to a custom role in my Discord server, and my video release schedule. Thanks again, guys, and I will see you next time.